From the calm water through which Telemachus and his crew sail, the sun rises into the bronze sky to shine upon gods and upon men who die on the life-giving earth. When they reach the shores of sandy Pylos, Nestor's people are sacrificing great black bulls to the lord of the sea, Poseidon. The ceremony is a sight to see, as 9 groups of 500 men are carrying out the rituals, each group with its own bull. As Telemachus follows Athena off the ship, Athena reassures the young man and gives him confidence to approach Nestor. Telemachus is uncertain about what he should say to old Nestor. She tells him that he will find the right words as they are needed. Some will come from himself, and some from a god. So they go to Nestor, who is sitting with his sons, and all around them are men preparing a great feast. One of Nestor's sons, Pisistratus, is the first to greet Telemachus and Athena, still disguised as a mortal, of course. They are welcomed into the feast without being asked who they are or from where they have come. After the food has been eaten and the wine drunk, Nestor speaks to Telemachus.
It is seemlier to ask our guests who they are, now that they have enjoyed some food with us. Who are you, strangers? Where do you sail from? Are you on some business, or are you adventurers wandering the seas, risking your own lives and bringing trouble to men in foreign lands?
Telemachus tells Nestor that he has come from Ithaca, that he is the son of Odysseus, and he has come to Pylos to inquire about his lost father. Nestor starts going on about the war.
Ah, my friend, you bring to my mind the sorrow we bravely endured in that land, heroes all, and the sons of heroes. Everything we suffered on the misty sea, looting and plundering wherever Achilles led, and all of our battles around Priam's great city, where our best were killed. There lies Ajax, dear to Ares, there great Achilles, there Patroclus, like a god in council, there my own dear son, Antilochus, strong and swift, a peerless warrior. And there were many more losses we suffered. No mortal man could recount them all, even if you stayed for 5 or 6 years and wanted to hear the whole tale of woe. You would return home weary before the end. For 9 years we devised all sorts of strategies to bring Troy down, which the son of Cronos scarcely brought to pass. In that effort no man could match Odysseus for cunning. Your father was the master of all strategies. If indeed you are his son, I am amazed as I look upon you. The way you speak is very much like him. One would not think a younger man could speak so appropriately. Now all that time, Odysseus and I never disagreed in assembly or council. We had one heart, and with our wisdom we advised the Argives on the best course to take. But when we had sacked Priam's tall town, Zeus planned in his heart a bitter journey home for the Greeks, who were not all prudent or just, which is why the wrath of the grey-eyed one brought many of them to an evil end. She caused a quarrel between Atreus' 2 sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus. It happened this way. These 2 called an assembly of the entire army in a reckless manner toward sunset and all out of order. We had been drinking. They made their speeches and announced their purpose in assembling the troops. Menelaus wanted the entire army to set their sights homeward, to begin shipping out on the open sea, but this was not at all to Agamemnon's liking. He wanted to delay their departure and offer formal sacrifice to appease the wrath of Athena. The fool, he had no idea she would never relent. The minds of the Eternal Ones are not quickly turned. So these 2 stood there, exchanging insults, and the soldiers rose up with one huge roar and took sides. We spent that night nursing our resentment against each other, for Zeus was bringing on our doom. At dawn, some of us hauled our ships to the bright water, and loaded on board our goods and our softly belted women. Half of the army held back, remaining with King Agamemnon, son of Atreus. But half of us embarked and launched our ships, which pulled away swiftly, for some god had made the teeming water smooth as glass. We pulled into Tenedos and offered sacrifice, eager to reach home, but Zeus held firm against our immediate return and stirred up still more dissension. Some now turned back their curved ships, following Odysseus, a wise leader with a flexible mind, out of respect for Lord Agamemnon. But I fled on with all my ships, for I knew that Zeus had evil in his mind. Diomedes also got his men out then, and Menelaus brought up the rear. He caught up with us in Lesbos, as we were debating the long journey ahead, whether we should sail above rugged Chios or on to Piastra, keeping Chios on our left, or below Chios past windy Mimas. We asked the god to give us a sign, and he showed us one, telling us to cut through the sea straight to Euboea, the sooner to get ourselves out of danger. A shrill wind rose up and started to blow, and the ships flew over the teeming brine. We put in at Gerestus that night, and with all that water behind us, we sacrificed many bulls to Poseidon. On the fourth day, Diomedes made Argos, but I held on toward Pylos, and the wind did not die down once it started to blow. And so I came home, dear child, knowing nothing of who survived and who was lost. But what I have heard, sitting here in my halls, you too shall hear, as is only right. The Myrmidons, they say, made it home safely, led by the son of great-souled Achilles. Philoctetes too, and Idomeneus brought home to Crete all of his men, who survived the war. He lost none at sea. Of Agamemnon you have already heard, far off though you be, how he came home and how Aegisthus plotted his grisly death, and then paid for it in a horrible way. How good is it for a son to be left when a man dies? Agamemnon's son avenged his death, killing his murderer, the treacherous Aegisthus. You too, my friend, for I see that you are handsome and tall, should be brave and strong, and win a name for yourself.
Telemachus then asks Nestor about Menelaus and how Agamemnon was murdered. Nestor tells him,
Well then, my child, I will tell you all. You yourself have guessed what would have happened if Atreus' son, red-haired Menelaus, had come back from Troy and found Aegisthus still alive in his halls. His dead body would never have been buried in the earth. Dogs and birds would have ripped it apart as it lay on the plain far from the city. Nor would any Greek woman have wept for him, so monstrous was the crime he planned and committed, while we toiled and sweated over there in Troy. He relaxed in a corner of blue-grass Argos, a sweet-talking the wife of Agamemnon, noble Clytemnestra. At first she refused the whole sordid affair. She had good sense, and with her was a singer whom Agamemnon, when he left for Troy, had strictly ordered to guard his wife. But when the gods doomed her to be undone, Aegisthus took the singer of tales to a desert island and left him there for the dogs and birds. And he led her off, just as willing as he was, to his own house. Many an ox's thigh he burned on the altars. Many an offering he made of tapestries and gold when he accomplished the great deed he had never hoped in his heart to achieve. Menelaus and I was sailing then, on our way back from Troy, the best of friends. But when we came to holy Sunium, the cape of Athens, Phoebus Apollo shot Menelaus Pilate with his arrows, killing him softly as he held the tiller of the speeding ship. Phrontis was his name, the best rough-weather pilot in all the world, so Menelaus stopped, eager though he was, to press on, and gave his comrade a funeral. When he got his ships on the deep purple again, he made good time to Malia's steep height, but then Zeus put trouble in his way, shearing blasts of shrill winds down from the sky, and the waves swelled to the size of mountains. Then he split the fleet in two, bringing some to the part of Crete where the Sidonians live, near Arandus River, There's a smooth cliff sheer to the misty sea on the border of Gorton, where the southwest wind drives huge waves against the headland on the left toward Phaistus. The only breakwater is a small rock offshore, so some of the fleet came there. The men barely escaped with their lives, but the ships were broken to pieces against the reef. 5 other black ships, though, were blown all the way to Egypt, and Menelaus wandered up and down that coast with his ships, a stranger in a strange land, amassing a fortune in gold and goods. Aegisthus, meanwhile, was working his evil at home. Having killed the son of Atreus and subdued the people, he reigned for 7 years in gold-crusted Mycenae. In the 8th year, though, he met his doom in the person of Orestes, come back from Athens. Orestes killed his father's murderer, the treacherous Aegisthus, and having killed him, invited all the Argives to a funeral feast for his hateful mother and her craven lover. On that very day Menelaus arrived, bearing all the treasure his ships could hold. So don't you wander long from home, my friend, leaving your wealth behind, and in your house insolent men who might divide up your goods while you are gone on a useless journey. Still, I think you should visit Menelaus, for he has just lately returned from abroad, from a country no one would hope to return to once a storm has driven him off course into a sea so wide that not even migrating birds make the trip more than once a year. So great is that sea, and so terrible. So then, go off with your ship and your crew, or if you would rather travel by land, we have chariots and horses at your disposal. My sons are at your service, ready to guide you to gleaming Lacedaemon, where Menelaus lives. Beseech yourself, so he'll tell you the truth. Not that he would lie. He's very wise. As Nestor finishes, the sun sets, and Athena urges them to get to sleep. Nestor invites them to stay in his house for the night. Athena tells them that Telemachus will stay, but she needs to attend to some certain business. As she says this, she disappears, and all that they see is a vulture flying off into the night. They are amazed at this, and Nestor realizes that they have been in the presence of an immortal. In the morning, Telemachus and Pisistratus ready a chariot and leave for Sparta to see Menelaus.